It's like 8 seconds.
Yeah,
That's all I know,
that's
I
all it
think.
is, man. It's either riding a
Wow.
bull or getting on the construction life.
All right. Which one do I know? Silent night, holy night, all is calm. It's terrible. All is bright. Round. How much long do I have to go?
That's it.
Round, round
Yeah,
yon
yeah.
virgin
That's the
bay.
admission. You're
Oh,
in, Bob.
oh,
You're totally in, man. Thanks so much. It's great that you're saying
oh.
Silent Night is pure bright out in Calgary there, wherever you are right now.
Yep. Calgary, Alberta.
Hey,
Dead center. Right
thanks
next
so
to the
much
Calgary
for
Tower, actually. Right
thanks
behind
so
me.
much for coming on the show, and we're gonna talk a little bit of shop, right? Or we're gonna talk a lot of construction, but we'll talk a little bit of plumbing, gas fitting,
Yep.
all the
All the good stuff.
all the good stuff, the great stuff. You've been in the game for how long, Bob? Like how far back we go on? You got a few grays in your beard.
I do. I've been so my grandpa was a plumber and so was my dad. So technically I've been doing it since I was 13, which gives me about 41 years in the trade. But officially since 1996, which gives me about 30
It's a
or
good
whatever
chunk of
that is.
change.
30 28
Yeah.
28 years of being an official journeyman
Did you
doing my
ever
thing.
ask your grandfather and your dad why they chose plumbing?
My grandfather was actually an airplane mechanic during World War II. He worked on the Hawker Hurricanes that they
Okay.
built here and sent over to Britain. And when the war ended, they had a thing which I was called rehab, where they took all these guys and taught them a trade. And so he picked plumbing. He took it in Ontario and then came out to Alberta to marry my future grandmother, and they started a little business out here in 19 down in Lethbridge in 1954, and then they came up to Calgary and started it in 1956, and we've been here ever since,
And then it was a natural
plumbing the
progression
world.
for your dad to kind of jump into it as well.
Yeah, both of my dad and his older brother uh, became plumbers. They all worked in the trade. That's sort of what you did.
Yeah.
And so my dad ran it till from about 1970 till about 2000, and then I took over in, like I say, 96, and I've been running it since then. Work
Nice.
with my dad and my grandpa. So yeah, it's as family as it gets.
So let me do a quick shout out. I'm wearing Aaron from out New Brunswick way. I'm wearing his tee, Flash Me, which is Big Dog Construction out in New Brunswick there. I'm always wearing a different tee. So if you ever find yourself in the neck of woods over here, this Bob, if you want to send me a tee, I'll throw it on and I'll proudly wear a Baker's Plumber
Dude, I
shirt.
got all sorts of swag, man. I'll send you
I'll,
anything you want,
I'll
man. What
totally wear it.
size?
I will totally, as long as it's an XL, I will totally wear it. If it's a little jumper or tiny small size, I don't know if I'll wear it, but I'll totally put
We make
something on.
we, we make them for trades, man. So it's all I got is XL, double XL, and triple XL.
So I just
If you
wanted
need a
to.
large or small, you shouldn't be in the trade.
That's
Not
as simple
controversial.
as that. Unleash your voice on the Construction Life podcast community. Are you passionate about the world of construction, trades, and all things building related? The Construction Life podcast wants to hear from you. Leave us a review, share your thoughts, insights, and experiences on your favorite podcast channel. Your review fuels our mission to create engaging and informative content for the construction community. Your feedback is a mortar that holds our podcast together, so share your thoughts, rate us, and let the construction community know why The Construction Life is your go-to podcast. Visit our website and check out the over 400 tradespeople and construction professionals listed on our site. Check out www.theconstructionlife.com for additional content, behind-the-scenes exclusives, and valuable resources. Dive deeper into the construction world with articles, guest profiles, and more. Follow us on social at TCL_The Construction Life. Subscribe to our video channels on YouTube and Rumble. Check out our link tree and find exclusive discounts for listeners. The link is in the IG bio. Join the conversation on Facebook, the Construction Life community. I want to start off with where I guess where you began with. It's basically Baker Plumbing. It's let me give out the deets here. It's on IG at Baker PLPG, and then the website is www.bakerplumbing.ca. And to reach them, obviously, because this show is about getting work as well for service and all kinds of calls. You can reach them at 403-800-3007. Find them all over Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and IG. He also has his own podcast when he has time to do it. And then I love that you're calling yourself, I guess these days, are you calling yourself Baker Plumbing 3.0?
I've been canceled a couple times on IG for saying, speaking the truth. So it's on three. We're on 3.0 now. Yep.
Well, what's the last cancellation? What did you say that? I'm going to gauge to see if it's worthy of being canceled.
It's not. So the very first one, I got into a fight with a guy in Texas over ProPress fittings that he called,
Oh, I
sort
love
of
that.
the abortion of the trade world, and we sort of got into it. And he flagged me for hate speech, and they took me down. And then the most recent one, uh, I did a post on how crappy shark bite fittings are, and how they are actually ruining the trade. And I got flagged again, and they canceled me again. So here we are.
You got canceled
3.0.
for speaking the truth about shark bite, which we know that it's not. It shouldn't be in the industry, in my opinion, but it shouldn't be. I'm sorry. I'm not a master plumber. I haven't been doing it as long as you. But when I look at it and I
Yeah.
hold it and I touch it and I'm like, it's a great temp idea. It's not a permanent idea.
Every plumber, including me, that was what my point was. Every plumber uses it. I have a box full of them for the temporary. Like, I'm in an emergency. We
Yep.
we work in the service industry. We mostly deal with hotels and restaurants and community centers, so they can't be down. And so we slap it together, and then with some shark bites, and then we pick a time to come back and do it right. So that was literally what my point was. And somebody got their knickers in a knot and said that I was um what was, I can't remember the term, the abusive behavior, I think is what
You heard,
IG
you
came
heard
back
you
and
hurt
said
somebody's
what I did.
feelings. Is that what it is? You hurt somebody's feelings? We're not
I hurt
allowed
a
to
lot of
hurt
people
feelings these
every day.
days. We're
Every
not
day.
allowed to hurt feelings, eh?
Yep. What the world's now.
Well,
Feelings are real, but
I'm
bad
siding
ones.
with you, Bob. I'm totally siding with you because I don't think, first of all, that was hate speech. I don't think that it was offensive. I think it was constructive criticism about an industry that has millions of amazing people in it, our side of the border or down south. But there's also a few ways
Yep.
of doing things, and there's also a few ways of doing good things and bad things. And if your mindset is about doing things really poorly all the time and it's making you a living, great, that's wonderful. But I don't have to agree with it. I could disagree with it. I'm allowed to disagree with it. So that's amazing that it keeps on changing. But let's see what kind of trouble you can cause here.
I promise I can give you anything you want, man.
Do
You can
it,
go
do it.
anywhere.
No, but you know what? Since we're starting on that plane, I want to actually. How many employees you got? You got like 6 or 7 employees, right?
Well, it's a bit of a story. I used to have 18, and then I couldn't. It was about 5 years ago. I fired everybody in one day, and so it's really just me and my two boys now,
What
who are
was the
both
reason? What
journeyman
was the
plumbers,
catalyst for firing
and my
everybody?
life is far simpler. Say that again.
No, no. So, what was the reason why you fired everybody?
You know, so in about 2000, I decided we were going to go big. And so we had, 12 trucks, 18 guys, office
Wow,
staff, a big warehouse full of shit,
wow.
and running around. And for 15 years, all I did every single day was say sorry. Sorry they didn't show up. I'm sorry they installed that wrong. Oh, it's the wrong product. Oh, it's the wrong this. It was never, and it wasn't, it wasn't awful, but that just sort of built up to the point where I literally woke up one day and just said, I cannot, like, I hate my life. I hate what I'm doing. I work for people that don't appreciate me. I'm always chasing money. We were doing, 4 or 5 million a year. And so it wasn't like it was unprofitable, but my mental state was just like I was just in a bad mood all the time, frankly. I still kind of am, but it's not as bad. And I just woke up one day, like it was on a Saturday morning, and I said, you know what? That is it. I'm done. I phoned up my lawyer and said, I'm firing everybody on Monday. Send me whatever paperwork I need to do that properly. And they all came in. I had like 12 cabs sitting in the parking lot and said, clean out your trucks, get the fuck out. We're done. I'm not doing this anymore. You can sue me if you want, but there's no recourse because you're all done. And it took about a year for me to clean that up. Like, we fired a bunch of clients that owed me money. Like, if you were over 90 days, I'm like, you're done. We're not working for you anymore. Find someone else. And I was incredibly busy. It was actually shocking to me how much work I could actually do if I just got up and just went to work. And so I did that for about a year and a half, and then convinced my oldest son, who's now a journeyman, and Pete, who will be a journeyman in a couple of weeks. So they come and help me out with this stuff, and they're quite good at it, and found out they liked it, and we get along, and so here we are,
I'm
5 or
curious.
6 years after
I'm curious, Bob.
firing gate.
Were any of them surprised that you did that morning?
Yep,
They were
they were.
surprised, right? Were any of
They
them
were.
were
They
they
were.
any of them expecting it?
Say that again.
Were any of them expecting it?
A couple. There's always a couple dudes that know that they're pushing the boundaries, and this is the week I'm going to get fired, or there's always the troublemakers. I mean, that's just how it goes.
So what was
It's
the age limit between your staff there? What was the youngest? What was the oldest?
we sort of were in the neighborhood of 20 to 45.
Okay.
And so when I did that, there was a couple of them were, quote unquote, my friends that I had worked for me for 8 or 9 years. And so they were shocked and mad, and to be blunt, I've never spoken to any of them again. It's just like, it's interesting in today's world. Everybody's talking about expansion, and I mean, I get 10 emails a week on, you need to ramp up your business, and we can help you do that through SEO. And I'm like, no, all that really, when because I've been doing it so long, the people I work for appreciate me. The people I work for pay me on time. We do an excellent job for them. I love the people I work with now. Clearly, I love my own sons, and we get along, and things are great. So it was a for my own mental and physical well-being. It just, that was the change that needed to happen, because
I
it's
I
I just
sorry.
it was just so. And that's the thing that nobody really talks about, is just, you're always chasing. Like, if you got 20 guys, like, you need thousands of hours a week of work to keep them all engaged and active and paid well and all the rest of that stuff. And it takes time and money and expertise to do all that stuff. And I thought I had it all, and I think I did, but it just sort of wore, whatever the verbiage is, the bone, it was bone on bone. Like,
Mhm.
all the cartilage was gone. It was just,
Wearing
everything was
it was just
painful.
wearing you down. It was just wearing you down, and you just like,
Yeah.
something's got to change. And then the thing is that you were changing, and you didn't like the way you were changing it. Did your dad ever have that problem? Did he
No,
expand too much?
no, my
No.
mom and my grandpa and my dad always kept it small.
Okay.
And when I worked with my dad, I said, dude, we got, like, there's so much money on the table. Like, we could do this job or this job. Like, we're good at what we do. And so when he sort of was out of the picture, I said, this is what I'm doing. I'm gonna go big. I'm gonna become, one of the big guys on the street. You know what I mean? And do the big jobs and be important and make all the money. And it's a bit of a fairy tale to just to think that that's what's going to happen. And there's guys that do it, but man, the guys that the spotlight on that are few and far between, because it's a tough gig to pull that off, and to be the dude that's sitting on the beach while everybody does their job.
So why not just be the dude that's controlling all this and not swinging the hammer anymore? Because the thing is that you're turning the wrench. You're still doing the work. Your sons are doing the work as well. And I don't think you want to be the controller. You don't want to be the guy in a suit.
I hated it.
Yeah.
Hated it. I love I love the trade. I love working in the trade. I love wrenches. I love the smell of threading pipe. I all that. I love bringing appliances, turning them on. Like, it's just but it's a totally different set of skills and mindset to sit in an office all day and clickety clack on making everything work, right? Making sure all the wheels are greased, and and dealing with sort of the human element of a larger company, because everybody has personal problems,
Yep.
and that, whether you allow it to or not, those personal problems invade the workspace, and you get to I'm not coming into work today because I had a fight with my girlfriend, or my wife found out I have a girlfriend, or whatever the fuck's going on. I'm like, great, we literally are demolishing a restaurant today, and you can't. You're my lead guy, and you can't come in because you're fighting with two women. All right, great. We'll figure out how that's going to work. Like it was incessant. It was just the stories of just men doing stupid things. Frankly,
You wanted to actually talk about plumbing fittings and not wardrobe fittings.
yeah, exactly.
You're getting sick
We even
and
hired
tired
a
of
couple of
that.
fabulous ladies in the trade, and they were good ladies, but they could not like they couldn't work with the men because the men were pigs and dicks. Like it was always something. Like every day, I'm like, what is it going to be today?
And then you're like a
Who's going to be mad
manager.
at you?
You're a manager of life at that point now. And you're like going, this is
Yeah,
not what I signed up for, man.
I, I should probably quit it all and become a life coach. One of those meatballs. Say, I'm just saying, I can coach your life, bud. I can tell you where the pitfalls are and prevent you from making terrible mistakes with
And
your
then
life
I'll fix
and
your
women, for that matter.
sink as well while I'm at it too, right? We could talk about it while I'm taking care of the plumbing there.
Yeah,
That could totally
dual
be a whole other
service.
business. Yeah, full service. You go in and just start ramping them, and then maybe you could even bring a guy in with a bass, and you could have the bass playing while you're just talking about life while you're taking care of, and then you give them the bill. You
See?
go, here you go.
Yeah.
I took care of the drain. Everything's
Here's
unclogged. It's all
here's
good.
here's the plumbing bill and here's the life coach bill. Both are due immediately.
Right now, because you're going to see the cause and effect from both of them if you take these steps. That's all it is. But
That's it.
that's running a business. I mean, like everybody brings it, but then nobody asks you if you're okay. You're the boss, you're the manager, you're running the shop, you're bringing the
Nobody.
business, you're making the calls, you're doing the sales, you're handling clients, you're chasing money, but nobody asks you, did that paycheck come in? Did that amount come in? Did that project start? Nobody's asking you.
No. There's that famous line, or it's famous for me, that line from Private Ryan where they're walking from after they do the invasion and they're walking through the fields there, and they're like, which way do complaints go? Do they go down or they go up? I'm like, complaints go up.
Yeah.
They never come down. If you're the leader and you start complaining, then it's over, right? Because if you can't hold your shit together, then why should they?
Yeah. That's how they
So
look at it.
the joy of running a business is that you always have to be on, always. Like 2 o'clock in the morning, somebody, a hotel floods. You can't be like, yeah, you know what, I'm really tired, or I'm fighting
Uh,
with my girlfriend, or I had too much to drink, I'm not coming in. You're like, no, okay, I'm on the way. You always have to be ready. That's the service industry, right? You're literally firemen. The bell goes off, you got to slide down that pole.
yeah, the unfortunate thing is some of your employees are sliding down different kinds of poles.
Exactly right. The guy's on call. I can't come in, man. I'm still at the bar.
I'm still at the bar. Exactly,
Oh,
right?
how is Cinnamon? She's fantastic. You should come down.
In the
No, I
background, all
know
you hear is
exactly
next up to the stage, ladies. Next up to the stage. Yeah, we know that whole fiasco. And this brings up my first question to you is that, and I think you kind of answered it, is the kids of today, the trades of today, they're not cut from the same cloth of kids of yesterday.
It's so easy to say that, and I agree with you 100%. I the the difference that I've noticed is that none of them have any patience anymore, and I think that's you can see that in the algorithms of the social media. Like the videos continue to get small, shorter and shorter. It used to be 1 minute videos were okay, and then it needs to be 30 seconds, and now it's 10 seconds. Like you got 10 seconds to get your message across, or they're looking at something else. And so I do think, and that's sort of the messaging that we put out as tradesmen. Like the trades is great. You can make lots of money.
Yeah.
And I've said it to my own boys. I'm like, you can make lots of money, but you're not going to make lots of money the day you show up. Like you got to develop your rapport, your skill set, your knowledge of what the hell's going on. You need to learn how to deal with people. And when you get all that together, then the world's your oyster and you can make all kinds of money. But you got to be able to put in the work.
They want to know how many days they have to show up to get to that money.
Exactly what
That's
it
not
is.
a number.
Yeah,
that's not a date. That's not an
yeah.
amount.
So
It's just you have to show up. That's all it is.
yeah. It's literally, I had those conversations. So when do I get a truck? I'm like, dude, you've been a plumber for 2 weeks, man. You're not getting a truck for a year. Oh, what? My buddy over at XYZ has been there for a week and he's in a truck. I'm like, that's because that dude is going to F up everything in his life and cost that company nothing but money. And I'm not prepared to do that. So we're trying to do it the proper way and give you the education you need so that you can actually be a plumber and not just say you are one. Like there's the difference between saying you're something and being something.
Yeah, totally.
And being something takes time and effort and focus.
And being something, you never should have the need to tell people that you are. Like
Exactly.
You should be showing them that
I'm
you are.
I'm literally having that conversation right now in another sort of circumstance where some dude is telling me he's a man. I'm like, you should not have to tell me you're a man. I should know that you're a man.
Yes.
The fact that you have to repeat, I'm a man. I'm like, the fact that you have the stature of one and the age of one is nothing.
Doesn't make you one.
Still, you live at your mom's basement. You don't pay any of your bills. There's nothing that translates into being a man other than you are the size of one. You don't have the mental capacity of one. You don't have the emotional capacity of one. You're a nitwit. And until you figure that out, it's going to be a long, bumpy road for you, my friend.
So, Bob, like, how many hardships did you, your dad, your grandfather go through? And I asked that question because it feels like this generation that gets into trades, they want to avoid hardships, but they don't understand the value of these hardships.
No, there's no way to avoid those. And
You
in
have
fact, I
to.
think by avoiding them, you create more.
Yes.
And your life just, uh, descends out of your control. One of the, my father passed away in 2006 unexpectedly. And so I didn't handle that super well. And I still don't handle it well. But was a massive hardship for me. But I can say to anybody that asks that I sort of took that challenge head on and dealt with all the shit that I had to deal with to sort of, bring what needed to come to conclusions and what needed to be extended and, sort of all the details of that circumstance. And it was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do and wouldn't wish it on anybody. But the only thing that got me through all of that was every morning I got up and went to work. There wasn't a single morning that I just said, I'm staying home, I feel bad, or I feel sad, or I'm upset, and I'm just going to stay at home and sleep in my bed or cry in my bed. It was like, okay, no, I got to get up. I got stuff to do. I got this, and this, and did it. And that's what made the difference for me, is that you do that enough and you sort out those problems and solve them.
Did you notice that?
I mean? They come to their inevitable conclusion.
Did you notice that when you were getting up and you were telling yourself, because you actually have to tell yourself, it's like, that you're at that point where you're stuck. You're just stuck, but you know that if I don't get off this bed and if I don't start working, and then it was probably a few weeks, if not a few months of working constantly 5-6 days a week, that you finally realized that this was benefiting me getting up and going to work mentally.
It was instantaneous.
Yeah.
Because the beauty of the realm of work, like the service industry, is that you go and fix problems, and like there's a problem when you show up and there's no problem when you leave.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it was, so that's sort of was the dopamine for me. I'm like, I'm showing up and every day I'm fixing, anywhere from 8 to 12 problems. And I feel good about that. And the people that I work for feel good about that.
This show is brought to you by Dahl. With Dahl, you receive a lifetime of reliability not only in the product they make, but in the service they provide. From design to manufacture to technical support, with Dahl, you don't just get a great product, you get a team of expertise. Join the thousands of satisfied Dahl customers and experience the Dahl difference. As a GC, I can confidently say that Dahl means receiving a lifetime of reliability. It's not just about the exceptional products they manufacture, but also the outstanding service they provide every step of the way. From the initial design phase to the meticulous manufacturing process, Dahl demonstrates their commitment to excellence. Everyone knows I respect care and construction. Check out Dahl at www.dahlvalve.com and also on social at dahlvalve.
And so that was sort of where I focused all my attention, is on solving those problems and feeling good about it. And I guess on some level going, this is what would my dad want me to do? He'd want me to get up and go to work,
Yeah.
because that's what he did his whole life. So it was just sort of, homage to his reputation and cathartic to my own emotions to just get up and go.
Oh,
And there was
young,
a few times, like you say, where you don't go, and at the end of the day, you're mean, you're miserable, you hate
you're
everybody.
in a different
I'm like,
state.
what is wrong with me?
Yeah.
I didn't do anything today. Is
Yeah.
my problem, and I'm just sort of, festering in my own feelings, and it's terrible. And if you let that go, you can see where people, end up, whatever the word we can say on YouTube these days is, self-terminating, because you just, you know what I mean? Like, it
Yeah.
just descends into sadness, I guess.
How young was he, Bob?
56.
Wow. My dad passed at 57.
Yeah.
It's too young,
Yeah.
man. It's way too young.
It's too young. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm 54. I'm like,
And
I can't
and
imagine.
you start thinking about it. I know. You start thinking about it. Yeah, I know.
You start thinking about that stuff, right? Like, wow, am I going to make it, or is it going to be something weird that just comes up and gets me? You really have no idea what life brings. And
But
so that was part of the message, right? Is you never know when your time is up. So do the best you can with what you got.
so that was the best thing that you did, is come in and fire everybody and realize that you need to redirect this ship. You need to figure
Yeah.
out a better path. So right now you've got your boys, two sons working with you, but then you have other people as well working with you.
We have a couple girls in the office,
Okay.
and really that's it.
That's it, huh? So
It's
now you
it's
basically
pretty,
streamlined it all.
it's pretty streamlined. We're super busy. We're not doing $5 million a year anymore, but I'm far more profitable than I ever was.
So
We are.
is it ego? Is it ego that these guys, they get into this business and they want to grow and grow and grow? And I want to have 100 employees. I want to have 100 plumbers with 100 trucks and 100 wrenches. And I'm like, why? Why do you want all that? I mean, I guess if you want to be in the ivory tower and have that suit and not swing the wrench, sure, that could work for you. But are you going to be happy?
Listen, and to get to that point where you have 100 wrenches and are in the ivory tower, uh, I don't know what other, sort of visual to use. You got to slit a lot of throats, and you got to cut a lot of people to get to that point. Like, it's not like nobody wants you to do that. Everybody wants you to be successful. What's that stupid phrase? Everybody wants you to be successful, just not more successful than them.
Yep.
So you start getting a taste of that stuff, and the world comes after you. Like, that's what those people, not people, those individuals don't realize, that if you want to be that successful, then you're going to have to climb over bodies.
Yeah.
And that may be graphic.
Yeah.
But it's the truth. Like, you will create enemies trying to do that.
Yeah. And
because you're good. Like, here's the pie. I want a bigger piece of the pie. Where's it coming from? You're not going to create it out of, ex nihilo, out of nothing. You're going to go cut it out of somebody else's pie.
And here's the funniest thing is that it's just, and I find this in construction. I find that, yeah, sure, everyone's very supportive. They want you to grow. They like seeing you succeed. You're giving work to people that you care about. Like, listen, do you have extra hands? Do you need somebody else? Do you have more work on your table? What's going on? Can you take this kid on? Stuff like that. It's all great. Everybody's all hunky-dory, lovey, kumbaya, just holding hands. Everyone's wonderful, right? But then all of a sudden you start to grow too fast. You start growing too fast. And what I found recently is people that you thought were your friends are talking smack about you and talking shit about you. And then you find out that And then all of a sudden, just in the back of your head, because we get to a certain age, right, Bob? Once you hit your 50s, you get to the I don't give a fuck anymore years. Like I'm not going to argue with stupid people. I'm not going to argue with you think you're right and I'm wrong. I'm not going to argue with it. I'm going to move on from that point because my time is a lot more valuable. So you quickly make an assessment. You reach out to somebody and go, listen, is it true that so-and-so said this about me? Like, what's the story behind that? And then if you find out it, you leave it. You don't confront the person. You don't go after it because it's a waste of your time. It's a waste of your skill. It's a waste of your effort. You just move on. Let that person smack until you get so big and help out so many people that they turn their story around. They'll totally turn around and goes, yeah, I remember when I was working with Baker. I was an amazing, I had a great time and all of a sudden the fucking narrative changes, man, which pisses me off. But in the back of my head, I'm like, I don't give a fuck. I really don't give a fuck.
It's the truth though.
It's the truth. When it comes to like Tupac's quote, man, it's like, listen, man, I want everybody to eat, just not at my table. Doesn't matter. You can talk shit about me, but I don't give a fuck. But it doesn't mean that you're ever invited back to my table. That's as simple as that. Construction is a small community, man.
That's the thing, especially like even here in Calgary, like it's like we're, a town of 1 million people. There are supposedly 600 plumbing companies in this town. We compete against 4.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's not that big. And so if somebody's doing some shady shit, like it doesn't take long for that to sort of hit the airways. And if you're going after one of those 4's, dinner table, then there's whatever I know we use these words and they don't really mean what they mean, but it's war. Like we're going to war over, well, this is the client that we're going after. You do the shitty job. We're going to take it. And then, it ends up in, I've spent far more time in courtrooms than any plumber should on both sides of it. Either I'm the plaintiff or I'm the defendant or I'm the expert witness of how this whole thing went sideways. It's craziness.
How much
and that
time?
Was part of that whole 15-year thing. I'm like, I am done with all of that shit. I can't do it.
You just don't want to deal with it because at that point you're just being sucked of all interest of the trade, which is why you got into it to begin with. It's like you start to lose the love of it. And then in the meantime, you got, like you said earlier, you got employees coming in, sleeping with 2 different people. And you're like going, listen, man, I just care about my business. I just want to focus on my business. But yet I've got all these jackals just coming at me, man. And then they just want to tear me down and break it all down. So none of these kids of today are understanding the shit that we all go through as business owners, trying to just survive. That's all it is, as simple as that.
It's the interesting thing, and I talked about it the other day when they're, for at least since about 2008, maybe 2010 in Canada, the trade world has been a fabulous place to work and make money because it's been busy, like crazy busy. And so there's lots of people that are doing really well that probably shouldn't do that well, but there's so much work. And what happens when that, little engine shuts down? I've been through 2 of them where it went from, we had 15 custom houses on the go, and over the weekend we went down to 2. What am I going to do now?
Yeah.
Because one company went bankrupt, that owes you 150,000, and another one's like, "Oh, I ain't doing any of those projects. We're just going to finish the 2 that we got because we're trying to circle the wagons."
Yeah.
I don't think anybody, most of the people that I sort of interact with on social media are sort of have been in the game for 10 or 15 years. And I'm like, you have no idea what it's like to go hungry or to have like wondering what you're going to do tomorrow because you have one job this week.
Yep.
And how are you and you hope that dude's going to pay you. Right?
That's the hardship that we're talking about that they haven't gone through. And the last time that it's been expressed on this show was 2009 when we had our bad bullshit, right? And that wasn't even an extreme one. That was nothing like the 99, right? That was an okay, like things are slowing down. I think that, and you probably are seeing it, I think it's going to get far worse. And a lot of guys that are not preparing for it are going to get really sideswiped.
Yeah, I agree. I remember when in the 80s, I was working for my dad. So I wasn't really aware of what was going on. I was 10 or 12 or whatever the case was, you know what I mean? But it was like the whole market out here in West, it was over. Like there was 3 years where everybody was scrambling to do, particularly in the trades and in the oil field, Like there was nothing to do. And, my dad had a couple of rental houses that he just let go. It's like, well, I can't collect the rent and I can't pay the mortgage on them. So, um, the bank come get these houses. I can't, I'm going to look after my primary residence
Yeah,
and my family, but I, it's over.
that's
My
what
little,
happens.
rental empire is over.
I know you did a post recently, and I totally agree with you on that post where you were talking about the majority of plumbers out there don't understand the value of service and how service is really recession proof, but service to a
Yep.
lot of plumbers is beneath them, which I don't understand why they would.
Well, it just talks about whatever. It just talks about their naivete. It's beneath you. What are you going to do when you got to feed your family? You will do anything
Yeah.
to feed your family. So don't tell me that you're, some sort of plumbing elite and only do, the new construction and reno, which in my mind is where everybody begins. Like if you're going to be
Yes.
a plumber, start in new construction. Why? So you can see how ventings run, you can understand how drainage is run, all that stuff. And then once you get a solid base for that, then you can start looking at how does a well system work? How does a septic system work? How do circular pumps work? Like how do circulation pumps? How does the heating system work?
Yeah.
How does a heat pump work? Like if you start with construction, then you can, you know what I mean? You can
You can ask the right
go from
questions,
there. But
right? You'll be able to ask the right questions to the right person to
yeah,
get further education at that point.
yeah. So the fact that they've sort of stayed there, and I understand why they've stayed there because it's so busy at the moment, especially out here. Um, but that's not going to last forever.
No.
And like you say, in 2008 and 10, 8, 9, and 10 out here, we had plumbing companies that had, 300 to 400 plumbers that
Wow.
let half of them go over a weekend. And what are they trying to do? They're now advertising and showing up with salesmen at sort of my clients. We can clean your drains. We can maintain your boilers. We can look after your rooftop units. Like we got it all, man. And I'm like, where were you a decade ago? You were laughing at me because I got dirty hands
Yeah.
working on toilets and shit. And now there's 6 houses to be built in this town. And now you got to make some money. So
Are your sons bringing ideas to you now, or are they still at the stage where they're just absorbing ideas from you?
they're still the latter.
Yeah.
I think it'll be as I've said to them both. Like once you become a journeyman, I call you a junior journeyman. Congratulations, you got your ticket. You don't know shit. You're responsible for shit, but you don't know shit. So you got another 5 years
Of
before you
shit.
can actually, like, you know what I mean? Your
Yeah.
opinion matters to me.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because you now understand, like after 5 years of being a journeyman, you should understand what it means to take a risk, to understand the risk you're taking, have a risk payoff, have a risk go blow up in your face, and sort of deal with those consequences of your choices. And once you sort of get that under your belt, then we can talk about what do you want to do with a business? What do you want to do? What do you think this is going to do? What's your option with that? Isaiah's into year 3, and like I say, Pete will be done in a couple of weeks. So, unfortunately, I still got 4 or 5 years left on this in the trade world on the tools, which I don't mind at all. But that's sort of the plan is to hand that off to them here in the next 5 or 6 years. We'll see what that looks like though.
And then they can, when they're ready, then they can figure it out what they want to do with it at that point, right?
Yeah, yeah, and they are sort of in that same boat. Well, we should do this and that. I'm like, okay, well here, and I'm sort of the negative Nancy. I'm like, well, this is going to go wrong, and this is going to go wrong, and that's going to go wrong. You need to be prepared for this and that and this. Is it really going to be that bad? I'm like, let me tell you a story of this, like real life story of this happening to me, this happening to me, this happening to me. It's all real. Does it mean it's all going to happen to you? I don't know. Maybe you're smarter than me. Maybe God loves you more than he loves me. I don't know. Maybe whatever it is, all I can do is point out the pitfalls and hope for you guys avoid them. That's really my only job, is to sort of steer the ship around through the asteroid belt. You know what I mean?
And
Watch out for
just,
this and
yeah,
watch
and
out for that.
just, yeah, just let them know that there's going to be some bumps and bruises, but don't, they won't hurt for long, but they would, they're going to
No,
be there. That's just as simple as that. What's,
like you said,
yeah,
like you said, like without those trials, you're a pansy. Like you got to have those. Where does wisdom come from? From making bad decisions. So you
Yes.
got to make some bad decisions in order to, gain some of those gray hairs in your beard and earn them and deal with the consequences of your bad decisions. So
I
I think
think
that's what
you
it is.
I think you could totally, and this is just for the younger trades. I think you should pay attention to an older trade's face and just get a better understanding of that look on their face. Like they've been through a lot of shit. So it's just like
Yeah.
there's something behind that, and how I'm not saying that your face is going to turn into that, but there's wear and tear on that face, right?
Yep. 100%. Yeah. Yeah. Whether you, I guess on some level, you don't want to have the 1,000-yard stare where you look
No.
like like the beaten man and or shell shocked from the world. But you want to be able to have, the wrinkles and whatever and say, this is why I have this.
Yeah.
Here's the reason I have the scars on my hands because I decided that this was going to be a good idea. And this is why it turned out to be an awful idea because of this or whatever. And then you let them you know, make their own decisions and get their own scars. I mean, that's what life is. Anybody that thinks they can eliminate those experiences, like I said before, I mean, if you do, then you're going to be soft and everything will trigger you
You're going to miss
as
opportunities.
opposed yeah, and you'll miss opportunities,
You totally
certainly
miss
growth
opportunities.
opportunities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, what is the deal between Alberta and BC plumbers? Why can't you guys get along? Or is it just like, is it Alberta, BC, or is it Alberta, Ontario? Is it every province has something going on with the neighboring province, or what's the story here?
Well, I have lots of friends in BC that are plumbers. Um, I do. It's interesting because the differences that we have are mostly environmental. Like we have some of the coldest winters on the planet because
Yeah.
uh, of our locale,
Yeah.
and we have that weird Chinook thing where we'll go from -30 to +20 overnight, and that's incredibly difficult on all the equipment that we deal with. And then sort of the West Coast is, the coldest they get is like -10.
Yeah.
And so their code, because we're super close, sort of geographically, you would think our codes would be aligned almost succinctly, but because of their environment and ours, our codes are just totally different. And
Yeah.
they're like, you guys are crazy. I'm like, no, we're not. We just live in a harsher environment than you do. And we have to change the way we plumb to keep everything flowing the right way. And so, as you know, I mean, you're on social media, so it doesn't take much to sort of, it takes a little bit of tinder to start a massive forest fire
Yeah.
where everybody's up in arms and pissed off about stuff. So most of that stuff is exaggerated and not nearly as bad as
It's just pure
the
entertainment,
news.
man.
The news would let you. Yeah, I mean, it's literally like the news. Like you
Yeah.
watch the news, like tomorrow's the end of the world. So kiss your wife goodbye because you'll never see her again because we're all gonna die. You're like, well, it's not quite that bad, but you should still be nice to your wife.
Yes.
Okay, how about
Still
that?
kiss her,
Just
and
be
that's
nice to
all.
everybody.
Yes.
I think we got a few days left on the planet.
And that one guy can kiss his wife and his girlfriend if he wants.
Exactly right. Well, he had to choose. I think he chose his girlfriend actually. So.
I want to get into a little bit of plumbing since I mean you're a plumber, so I'd love, since we started the show as well with shark bite, and I agree with you. Shark bites are temporary, not permanent, and the rest of you guys can just go kiss my ass. I don't give a shit, right? It's just like they're a temporary thing. They're not a permanent thing. Are you a hot water tank, or are you an on-demand guy?
You know, we'll put in whatever the customer wants. We love the on demand, and the only reason that the on demand is feasible now is because hot water tanks are going through the roof. Like we just replaced a 50-gallon hot water tank, and it was like $3,500,
Whoa!
and that was a straight swap out,
Wow!
right? Because they're getting so expensive that I'm like, why don't you just for another grand? Why don't we put in a new, you know, uh, tankless heater for you?
Are they putting like
So
gold leaf in the hot water tanks now? Like, what's going on here? Why are they so
I
expensive?
don't know. Like I was shocked
Am I wrong?
when
It's
like
just metal and insulation. Is like, am I? What's like? What's so special about this hot water tank now?
there's nothing. My hot water tanks cost me. They used to back in the day. I remember when people were installing them for $300,
Yeah.
and now it costs me $1,100 to buy a tank, a 40-gallon tank, straight up.
Wow. And you can't even do a 40-gallon these days because everybody's running hot water for how much longer nowadays?
Yeah, exactly. Like everybody has the car wash shower, right?
Yeah.
And the two washing machines or two dishwashers. Like the consumption of society has overtaken the world.
It's insane.
Everybody needs more and bigger, and so yeah, a 50 gallon um, is $1,600. If you want a power vent, you can add $500 to $800 on top of both of those,
You a fan of power
right?
vents, or
So
you prefer gravity?
I hate the power vent because
They,
I mean, those things break all the time,
I
and
know.
they're as much as a hot water tank to replace.
That's
You want a new
exactly.
power vent?
Yeah.
They're they're $900,
Yeah. I know.
and the customer looks at you like you're insane.
I rather just
Are you
have a
kidding me?
stack. I'll find a place to run that stack and get it to the roof. I don't give a shit because that stack will never fail. It doesn't need a
No,
plug. It doesn't need
no,
power. It just needs
yeah.
gravity.
That's part of the problem with the world today, is that everybody is throwing in technology for the sake of technology. Here's a boiler. It can attach to your phone. I'm like, I don't need it to attach to my phone. Why do you have a Bluetooth module on this effing boiler? It doesn't mean anything. Oh no, you can diagnose it while you're laying in bed. I'm like, I still got to go there. And so I've literally sat in those sales meetings and had those salesmen tell me to my face, we're actually doing you a favor because you get to be in front of the customer more often and are able to bill them more often. I'm like, yeah, and they're fucking pissed about it
They don't like it.
because instead of, I install a $12,000 boiler system for somebody, they never want to see me again. Like maybe once a year for the just to maintain it, like an oil change, and I'll charge you $300 for that. But if I'm actually replacing parts, then they're pissed about it, and they think I've done something wrong. Right? What did you do wrong? Why is this not working the way I want it to?
It's been a
You
while
spent a
since
lot of money on this.
it's been a while since I asked a plumber. Has anybody that does on demand figured out the cold spurts, or they all have cold spurts still?
Oh, the
Yeah,
cold sandwich effect.
yeah. They haven't figured that one out,
They
eh?
all are. No, no. All they do is they now have like those tanks now have little bladder systems in them, and not bladder systems, but storage tanks in them, and then the pump runs and blah blah blah. But no, there's no solution
So
to what
that's
as your water cools in your pipe.
yeah.
It's it's colder.
So
Deal with it,
that's
and
kind of
that's part
sorry,
of the
sorry.
problem of dealing with customers is they're like, I want hot water. Like the second I turn it on, you got it's like the Olympics. You got a hundredth of a second to get me hot water, or I'm phoning you. We literally have a customer that will phone us when her thermostat, like she wants it at like 21.5, and she has another thermostat that tells her what the temperature is. If it's off by half a degree, she's calling us.
Wow.
There's something wrong with my heating system.
That's a
It's
good.
off by half a degree. I'm like,
And then
and she pays us,
she's using all the
which is
Bluetooth.
fine.
She's got all the apps and everything's connected in her house, and so she knows everything that's going on right now.
Yes, she's driving to the grocery store. Hey, Bob, I'm noticing that my bedroom's a half a degree colder than I want it to be. How soon can you come out? I'm like, we'll try and be out there tomorrow morning if that's okay.
Does she have a
Oh,
cat?
okay, I'll try and deal with it for a day.
Does she
I'm
have a
like,
cat?
okay.
A pet or anything like that? Does she have any pets? Quickly turn digital measurements into efficient gains for your business. With iGuide, you can turn around DWG floor plans within 48 hours, easily share project files with partners, and create 3D walkthroughs for your clients. Stop struggling with inaccurate measurements, manual processes, and inefficient project planning and collaboration. Discover how you can boost productivity and cut costs with a virtual demo. Visit www.goiguide.com/AEC to connect with an iGuide specialist.
She does. They're very, very wealthy. like incredibly.
Well,
Their
the
house
reason
is like a
I
30,000 square foot house.
so the
It's
reason
huge.
30,000 square foot house. So that means it's totally
It's
insulated
ridiculous.
properly. Yeah, it's ridiculous. I'm just like, I hope she understands that having a live body inside the room will actually fluctuate that temperature. That's a fact, by the
You
way.
can't
It will
you
totally
can't have those
fluctuate.
conversations with those people.
A
Like
warm
they
body will
like
keep that room a little bit warm, half a degree. It may be a full degree. It does do
no.
that, right? But they don't get it.
I know it does, but you can't have the like. She's just like, it's not what I want. I'm like, okay, we'll fix it.
Then she'll probably just say, I don't think the cat was in that room at that time that I text you. I'm looking at the cameras right now, and the cat was definitely not there.
I have said to the boys, I'm just going to take a Sharpie and write the number on the screen of what I want it to be. I'm not sure I can make it like look like a computer, but I'm going to try. So it never changes.
She'll call you and she'll compliment you. She'll like, thank you. I don't know what you did last time, but the temperature's just been staying. It's just only been staying. Those are the clients that you love and hate, man.
I'm telling you. But my favorite, in fact, I just did it the other day. We have lots of people that phone us for smells. It smells weird in my house. And so you literally walk in there, you're like, can you smell that? I'm like, no. You should probably wash that, though. I don't know what you want me to smell. So I've literally gone under sinks and just take like my pliers and be like, tighten something, whatever, and spend 20 minutes sitting there. I'm like, okay, let me know how that goes. And without a word of a lie, the next day they're like, Bob, thanks so much for coming. It just smells so much better in here. I'm like, that's because you're crazy. And I literally did nothing other than show up. So it's some psycho, I don't know what the word is, reaction to me showing up. They're like, oh, the plumber was here, so it smells better. It's crazy to me.
Are clients overeducated these days, Bob? Are they like checking every source of resource out there before they contact you, and then they ask you your opinion, you give it to them, and it's not in line with what they've researched? So they question.
That's certainly true with the residential side of things.
Yeah.
Like people will Google it to death. And I mean, we did a boiler replacement, and the lady told me that her system needed to be flushed with RO water. I'm like, RO water?
Reverse.
Do you
Really?
realize that
Are you
RO water is caustic? Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. I've never heard of that.
And neither have I. I'm like, where did you read that? Oh, it was on the internet. I'm like, listen. And she made us do it.
Wow.
She's like, I will buy you. I'm like, you can, if you're that worried about it, then we can get distilled water if that's what you want. But RO water, you're crazy.
Man, you should have just
nope,
you should have did a post.
RO water.
You should have did a post of you just pouring like bottles of Avion into it. And she's like, my plumber's the best. He actually used Avion.
For 3 days flushing out her system with RO water.
That makes no sense whatsoever at all. Completely. It makes no sense.
Nothing. None. She paid us for every hour we were there. Well, I'm like, okay, if you want us to do that, here's our hourly rate. I don't know how long it's going to take us, but we'll do it until you're satisfied. She made us flush the entire system 3 times.
Wow.
And she went and bought the RO water and brought it back for us because she trusted us to work on her system, but she didn't trust us to buy the right product that she wanted because she had read it on the internet.
If she's
like, okay, lady,
if she's happy and you got paid, then okay, fine, great.
Yep. But you're right. So where does that come from? That she needs RO water. She is, I don't think the right word is educated. There's too much conflicting information out there.
Yeah.
Like plumbing's sort of like what's happening in the health industry. Should you drink water? No. Should you eat vegetables? No. You should eat nothing but meat all day long. I'm like, okay. And then there's some other dude. All I do is eat corn. I'm like, okay. I don't know what's what, whatever works. Plumbing's sort of becoming the same thing. Well, I read this or I heard that. I'm like, okay, well, with 40 years of experience, what you're telling me right now makes no sense. I've never heard of it. You're wrong, but we'll do it the way you want to do it because you're the customer.
Here's yeah, no, they're not right because they're a customer. That's a question mark. I would always be asking them, okay, fine, you found this on the internet. Who was the author? Was it a licensed plumber? Was it a developing
idea,
producer or something like that? Because they never tell you who the author is. They definitely don't tell you
Nope.
where it came from. They just tell you that I read this. But yet you've got a person standing here with 30 years of on-site plumbing experience that has probably seen every imaginable scenario possible, probably any kind of substance that's been conformed into kind of mucus or whatever, put down drains and sucked out and cleaned out. But you've got a person who's a 30-year veteran with knowledge right in front of you. I'm the author. And I'm telling you,
Yeah.
you don't know what you're
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah. Whoever you heard that from, I won't lie to you. That's a fantastic answer. I'm going to use that from now on. What's the author of that?
Who's the author of
Let me
that,
find
right?
that article. What
Yeah.
does he know?
Is it about a little boy with a wand and glasses? Like, I really don't think he was a plumber, but we'll leave it at that, right? I'm not talking those kinds of stories. I want to. Are you guys being asked to push heat pumps out west as well too? That whole fiasco.
They are, but they don't work out here. It's just too like
It's too
when
cold.
we have, the last 4 winters we've had anywhere from 3 weeks to, 5 straight weeks of -35.
Holy
Like
sh! Wow.
you will freeze to death. Like as far as I know, because I don't deal with them very much, -18 is kind of their threshold where they stop working effectively.
Yeah.
And so it just, if you have 2 weeks of minus, I mean, last year we had 2 weeks of -40. And when you hit 2 weeks of -40, it doesn't really matter how well insulated your house or your building is. Like that cold's going to find a way into it and cause us trouble because it's just so bloody cold. And so, in fact, even our own provincial government is basically giving the finger to the feds and say, we're not doing it because it
Good.
doesn't work here.
Good for
It's
them.
impossible.
It won't make sense. And if you want to just save the environment because of that, it doesn't make any sense. And I think it was the first or second year of my construction career where I was quickly being taught, like, we know what the standard is regarding building code. What's the frost line, right? We're always told it's like a 42 to 48-inch line. But you get into certain parts in Calgary like that, and you get that kind of temperature, you start hitting frost line at 6 feet, not at 4 feet.
All of our stuff is minimum 8 feet deep. Water
Wow.
lines, sewer lines. When
Wow.
they build their foundations, they're 8 feet deep. Our frost walls are 8 feet deep. You're putting fittings in or fittings. You're putting footings down. You're 8 feet below ground
Wow.
because of the frost.
Because you know it. They know it.
Yeah, and if you're on a drive, like we've done stuff where you're on a road or a pathway that even with foot traffic, like it'll pound that frost 10 to 12 feet deep.
It
It's
gets
crazy.
bitter. It gets bitter, man. I know that. Do you get a lot of home, like residential clients asking for you to put in urinals installed into sort of? Well, because I bring it up because I
The
think
only ones we've had are the divorced men that want one.
they really. I had
They're
to.
like, screw it. I'm putting one in no matter what.
They don't
Okay.
care. They don't give it. They just because it'll never get sold, right? It'll never get sold at that point. That'll have to
I don't
get
know what they're
changed.
doing. I've never had a woman ask me to install a urinal ever. So
No, it was a
men have
couple.
for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, it was a couple, and he asked for it, and he was saying that it's going to be his bathroom downstairs, so he wants a urinal. So we actually put in a total urinal. And I mean,
Yeah,
at first I thought it was an interesting idea, a kind of makes sense, I guess, idea. But then I wasn't a fan of it later on because I just didn't want to see it all the time. It just made me feel like I was walking into a public restroom at that point.
I agree with you. I think, and they're, to be perfectly frank, they're dirty. They're not, you know, uh, men are not particularly known for their aim, even if
Nope.
you have a big freaking urinal.
Yeah.
So, um, yeah, I don't get the appeal for it at all. We've installed lots of those waterless ones, but and frankly pulled most of them out because they stink.
They don't
Right?
work and nobody's servicing them as frequently as they should be because it's calculated
Yeah,
on how many uses that are going on. So if you've
yeah,
got a ramp up, like we all know this from job site toilets, if you all of a sudden have the whole crew in 1 week and it was perfectly fine the week before with only two guys on the site, there's going to be a difference in that job site toilet, right?
I agree. And even with that, like even if it's your home, it doesn't get the same use. So I've found that if it sits there for, let's say, 2 weeks without being used, it starts to stink anyway. You know what I mean? Like it's got that whatever that media is in those little canisters.
Yeah.
Uh, as far as I can tell, appear to need some urine to work its magic. If it doesn't, it just starts to go stale and stinks anyway.
Bob, how many clients you think are aware that unassisted P traps will eventually let gases come through the water?
Nobody knows that, man.
Only
We
professionals.
that's
Only professionals know that.
yeah. Going back to my little smell thing, we have lots of. It's a weekly. If it's not 3 or 4 times a week, someone will say this back room stinks like crazy.
Yeah.
Like, do you have a floor drain in there? Yeah. I'm like, okay, well, take a bucket of water, dump it in there, take a cup, take a half a cup of olive oil and dump it on top of that, and then you won't have to mess with it for 6 months. And that's what they do. Oh, it made all the difference. I'm like, why does that work? I'm like, there's a trap in there that prevents the air coming back. Really, you'll have to tell me how that works. I'm like, I just did. Just don't worry about it. Like, worry about cooking your steak or your fucking noodles.
I
You let
haven't
me worry about the technical parts of plumbing, okay?
I haven't heard the olive oil one. That's a good one. So the oil just kind of
Yeah,
yeah.
it just helps it. I mean, we find it helps it evaporate way less quickly. Like if you just dump one in, it'll last a couple of months depending
Yes.
on the size of the tree trap or P trap.
Yep.
If you throw some olive oil in there, it lasts months and months longer.
That's good. That's a good little note there. I like that. What's the deal with plumbing and mashed potatoes? What happened there?
Plumbing and mashed potatoes,
Yeah.
dude. That's like people think because it's a hole, you can shove shit in it, and so it doesn't matter what it is, it's gonna take it until it doesn't take it anymore.
They think that it's just
So
like I can get rid of everything that I don't want down that 2-inch glazed toilet hole or whatever. Doesn't work
yeah,
like that.
no, no, it's my favorite. It should be my favorite one, or when they throw dried pasta down a drain, or chickpeas, or all that stuff that swells up with water. And it doesn't matter what system you've got. Somewhere in your system, you have a little low spot that's just
Of course.
got a quarter inch of water in there or something like that.
Yeah.
So it'll find that, and that pasta or those chickpeas or whatever it is will find that and just and within 2 weeks your whole system's backed up, and clean it out and come back with did you happen to throw away some legumes in the last yeah, we had a whole bucket of them, they went bad. I'm like, well, they're now in your system, and here's like you're gonna have to clean those out of there. Why didn't you just throw it in the garbage?
Why
Like, you
wasn't
got a
that
garbage
an
out
option? Why didn't they just throw it in the garbage? Because they see a hole.
because they see a hole.
What do you prefer, commercial or residential? You prefer commercial these days?
Yeah, that's mostly what we do, frankly, is commercial service.
Yeah.
Um, those are the guys that, to be frank, have budgets for us, that expect to see us, that it's part of their, operating schedule is for, their, professional trade to show up and make sure all their stuff is running, look after all their plumbing systems, all their heating systems. So, and that's part of what I was talking about with that recession. That stuff will never go away
No.
because people need to operate their businesses.
Yep.
And they need to make sure that, particularly in the hospitality end of things, restaurants and hotels, like if you show up at a hotel and there's no hot water, what are you going to do? Like, are you
Exactly.
expect to pay for that hotel? There's
I, I,
like showing up to a hotel and there's no bed. Sorry, we don't have any bed, but you can sleep on the floor.
the floor's great.
Uh,
And that's where I'll say that I think that you guys as a trade are underpaid when you guys are servicing these highly used commercial dwellings, these structures, because the amount of like you were just describing, chickpeas and spaghetti was going down just one home, residentially speaking, but you can only imagine the nastiness that's thrown down in a hotel, in a restaurant, in a bar, in a lounge. certain hours of the night or whatever, like all kinds of, let's just try this, let's just try that, see what happens. And then you guys come in, and I still will say you're underpaid for the service that you're being asked to do. Clear that out and hope that
Yeah.
those lines were properly built and maintained and taken care of, so then you can properly clean it and get it back to flowing, running properly while the structure is still operating. While things are still going on,
Yeah.
you're being asked to do all this
Yeah.
stuff.
There's no downtime, right? That's the beauty and the challenge of working with with that segment of the industry is like you have to do this live, most of it, right?
Which is scary at
Well,
times.
people in the building, you know what I mean? You sometimes you're putting on a dog and pony show as guests are watching you work your magic. And
Well, I
there's
know.
always there's the classic line, it costs extra to watch, so you might as well start throwing money at me because that's what it's going to cost you.
Pull up a seat. Pull up a chair, man. Pull up a chair. What I know that your career, Bob, has kind of changed over the years, right? But what would you say is the best part of your career these days?
You know, the best part of it is the people that I work with and for. I have some wonderful relationships with wholesalers. I have wonderful relationships with companies and management that I've worked with for 25 years. And you know, uh, I, we don't do anything quote unquote social. I'm not really that type of guy, but I enjoy seeing them when we see each other. We have a lovely conversation. We know about each other's families, and you go catch up on all that stuff. So it becomes a very personal relationship with lots of those people, and it's to be mushy about it. It's just an uplifting part of the day and of my experience is to deal with people that like me, that appreciate what we bring, and it's wonderful, frankly. And I mean, I have dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of those relationships that have been crafted over the years, and it's I love it. That's the best thing about it is the relationships you develop
Are
for
the
sure.
are the boys paying attention to the I guess your networking skills, your communication
Yeah,
skills, all those are all valuable as much as just turning the wrench, right?
yeah, we've talked about that a lot. And so I have said to them, I'm like, I don't need you guys to work for me. I sort of have the people, and they know what I can do, and I can build them what I want, and I can live a very happy, 15 years in the trade doing what I do. If you guys want to expand this thing, then you need to develop the relationships that I've developed,
Yeah.
like the relationships I've developed, and you develop those by being honest, by being trustworthy, by following through on what you say you will do, by fixing problems, by admitting that you've made a mistake and you're going to fix it. Like all the sort of fundamentals of building any relationship of trust um, goes into building that relationship with your clients. And after 25 years of working or 30 years on some levels, they know who they can trust and they know what they get. And there's really, even though they're, you know, I have no doubt seduced by other suitors, they're like, nope, I know what I got. I know what I'm getting. There's no sense in, you know, we love working with Baker, even though he's an ass and expensive.
Well, first of all, ass should be expensive. I don't care what trade or what industry it is. Ass is expensive.
Exactly.
Simple as that. All right. I want to ask you, Bob, is like, what's, if you were hiring today, what's the one thing that you're looking for in a plumber?
I think that's it. It's called skilled trade for a reason. It's not
Yeah.
talent
Yeah.
trade. And so if you're loyal, if you're hardworking, if you're willing to uh, make a mistake and admit you made a mistake and fix that mistake, if you can explain to me why you did something and it makes sense to me, you know what I mean, or I can understand where you're coming from, then I think that's valuable. Should be able to communicate what you want to do and how you're going to do it. The skills come.
They will.
You know what I mean? They're repetitive. We do lots of the same things over and over and over again. Um, and so I'm not, if I was hiring today, I'm not looking for the most skilled guy. I'm looking for someone, like, I'm looking for good people
Yeah.
that, and then I can teach you the skills that you need to be successful in this trade. Um, I mean, clearly that you have to have a little bit of, like, you can't be all thumbs, or, can't be on the spectrum, as they say these days. As we used to say, you can't be retarded, but I think it's that you're on the spectrum these days.
That's news to me. I don't know. Really? You can't be on the spectrum? Is that a thing? That's okay. All right. Well,
I'm
they're
just here to
changing
educate, man. That's
everything,
all I'm here to
man.
do.
I'm waiting for them to change Webster's name. Like, I don't know. It's just like what? They're going to change everything at that point. They're not changing the
I
trades.
I do think that that's coming to an end. I do think there's some fatigue on sort of that, cancel culture, that, you know, uh, I don't want to get too political, but that leftism sort of angle of everything is starting to wear a bit thin.
Yeah.
And I do think that there's some changes coming,
Yeah.
uh, to sort of, and that's sort of how that pendulum swings, right? Like, it goes this way, and then when it gets too crazy, which I think it's too crazy right now, which starts to come back to center, it'll probably swing too far right,
Yeah.
because that's just how those things work. And so you just sort of have to enjoy the moment when it's in the middle, whenever that might be.
I do want to ask you, what's the number one reason why clients would hire a cheaper plumber versus the right plumber? Because I don't find plumbing expensive, and I think that it should be done by just how you described it: skilled tradespeople, people that provide a service, people that have the experience. They've done the education, they've gone to seminars, they've gone to trade shows, they've conversed with other people on social media, off social media, on site. They've done the homework. So that all costs money. But why is it that clients will choose a cheap plumber?
I think lots of them, particularly in this neck of the woods, like, in order to be a plumber, like, in order to call yourself a plumber, like, you have to go to school for
Yeah,
4 years, get your ticket, and all that sort of, no different than Ontario over there. But uh, part of it is they don't know any better. They think sort of all plumbers are created equal, so their own
they're not.
inexperience.
Yeah,
And that's, I mean, probably the most honest reason is because they're cheap, right? We find that certainly the reason that we don't do lots of residential is because they're so concerned about every dollar that's spent. Like, what's this for? What's that for? I want to see your, and we won't work for those people, but those people. We want to see your receipts.
yeah,
We want to see, as soon as you walk in the door, you're on the stopwatch starts.
yeah,
I'm like, well, you're paying for us to go to the wholesaler and pick up your stuff and wait in line and wait in traffic and all the rest of that stuff. So don't think that because I was here for 47 minutes, I'm billing you 47 minutes,
yeah,
right? And I'm not showing you my receipts. I'm going to tell you what this stuff costs. And of course, there's the internet these days and we've all had that experience where this is what this costs on the internet. I'm like, then buy it
yeah,
and install it
yeah,
and stop calling me.
yeah. And that takes me to like the handy men and handy women out there that they think that they can figure out how to fix a problem when it comes to
Yeah.
plumbing. They just know it's easy.
Yeah. It's so, it's been fascinating because there's lots of those guys around here. And they do more harm than good. And every one of them that has tried to sort of insert themselves into our world has ended up, getting burnt and losing the customer completely because they either, fry a hot water tank, or, you know, uh, um, ruin a pump,
Yeah,
or whatever the case may be. And I'm like, yeah, well, that you guys saved like, $65 on hiring him, but now you got to spend 5,000 to replace this pump that idiot fried. So he doesn't know what he's doing. Like, there's a reason I am who I am, is because I know how to fix this stuff.
yeah,
And there's the reason you pay me what you pay me. And so, though, because we work, that commercial world, we deal with big, you know, uh, um, expensive, powerful stuff. And as soon as those handymen go in there and start meddling with it, they break it because they don't know what they're doing. And so we don't come up with that, come against that very often anymore, because most of our clients have learned that lesson. Like, oh, yeah, just get Bob in there. Don't. I know Greg's very nice at changing the light bulbs on the front, but don't have him look at anything in the mechanical. And I have said to every single one of my clients, I'm like, this is my room. Like,
Yeah.
this mechanical room is mine.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna go into it, you better let me know what you're doing in here. Because if you wreck something and I gotta come fix it, then I need to know where your fingerprints are and why you did what you did. And most of them are on board with that. Yeah, no, we get it. We'll call you if there's any issues at all. And that, you say, that just comes from, you know, 20 years of being trustworthy and honest and upfront and all the rest of that stuff
Building a
that,
brand.
that, that you're able to develop that relationship with those people.
What's with the? I'm curious myself, but how far back did you start beekeeping?
I've been talking about that for a decade, and I finally did it over COVID. Is
Nice.
when we obviously had a little bit of
Yeah.
freer time.
Freer.
We were still quite busy over COVID, but that summer, I bought some bees, and so here we are going like crazy. It's going really well. I've got about 100 pounds of raw honey sitting in my office that I have to give away for Christmas because that's a lot of freaking honey. It's amazing. It's amazing to me. That's why I like it. Those little tiny bees that you see buzzing around, like, are so proficient and so productive at what they do. Like, it's amazing that they create all this honey.
Mm-hmm.
We love it, and all you have to do is just sort of give them a place to stay, and they do all the work.
Yeah.
Fascinating to watch them do their thing. I love it, and like you say, other than sort of observing it and harvesting it, I really don't do anything. It's just one of those, marvels of the world.
Do you find it therapeutic?
I do, actually. I
Yeah.
love watching them do their thing
Yeah.
and buzz around, and yeah, yeah, I recommend it to anybody, even if you just go and sort of, uh, um, it's funny. It's like anything else in this world. I thought when I was going to do it that, I did all the research and I thought, man, I'm going to be like one of 8 people in Alberta that does beekeeping because nobody does it out here. And when I finally got into it, I found out that Alberta is actually the beekeeping capital of Canada. There's hundreds of thousands of us doing it. I'm like, oh, kind of like when you buy that fancy red car that you thought nobody
You
had.
see red cars
You drive it
everywhere.
out of the
I know.
dealer. Yeah, you drive it out of the dealership, and all of a sudden, zing, zing, zing. Like, everybody has this effing car. Damn it!
Yeah, but now you can just start packaging that honey. I mean, it's like exactly how good it is, and everybody knows that it's there's no crap in it. It's just all natural.
No, I do suspect that I mean, that's sort of the plan, is sort of over the next 4 or 5 years, as I start to turn some responsibilities over to the boys, that I can start doing more of that beekeeping stuff and sort of figure out what the business plan on that is, if there even is one. I don't know. And it'll be, baker's bees. That'll be the next thing.
I can totally see it. I don't know if you're aware of this, Bob. Is I think in January, Jason Statham's coming out with a movie called Beekeeper, and it's
Oh,
basically
I'm not.
yeah. You look it up and check it
So
out.
should I get on it?
You should get on it because basically he's a hitman. He's like covert, and he on the side he just he does the beekeeping. He just wants a calm life. But then when you piss off somebody that he cares about, the beekeeper's coming
There
after
you go.
you.
I could do that.
You could totally be
I
the
could
plumber
totally,
that gets pissed
I
off,
could
and you're
totally
like,
pull that
listen,
off.
you could totally pull it off, man.
Don't mess with me, man. I keep beat. It's kind of like what is that stupid one? He was in that show too, Snatch. Don't
Yes.
ever, don't ever piss off a man with pigs, man. It's gonna be the new. Don't ever piss off a man with bees.
With
He will
bees.
kill you.
That's what it's gonna be. I think we've covered quite a bit. I know you're a busy person, and I'm so glad that you took the time to just talk to us right before your workday starts. I got to ask the 10 questions from you, but I do want to just ask you real quickly, what's your favorite toilet?
My favorite toilet.
Yeah. I mean, you've
Uh,
installed a few of them.
my favorite toilet. Yeah, my favorite. The one that I that's a weird way to say it. The one that I like the most, or is the most effective, the Toto makes a fantastic toilet. Toto Drake is by far our our toilet of choice. Maybe not our favorite, but our toilet of choice for the commercial world has the most. What is it called? The mass. I think that's what it's called. Can take the most shit, and
They
they
move the most
the
shit.
scientific world doesn't use the word shit. They use, I think it's MASS or something.
Yeah.
Weird
I remember.
some yeah, I forget what it's called. I forget what the acronym stands for, but it's how much shit can it take, and
Yeah.
that's the Toto Drake is fabulous.
Supercharge your construction business with Connect Team. In the fast-paced world of construction, keeping your finger on the pulse is essential. But who has time for the little things that consume most of our day? Upgrade your business management with Connect Team, the ultimate digital toolkit for construction managers and tradespeople. Why switch to Connect Team? Effortlessly track employee clock ins and outs. Ensure your team is aligned with their tasks. Make sure all safety PPE are being addressed and confirmed. Receive real-time updates from the field through digital forms and checklists. No more drowning in manual tasks. Step into the digital era. Connect Team offers a seamless platform to elevate your business management, giving you the freedom to focus on your growth. It's not fiction, it's Connect Team, your go-to platform for 2023 and beyond. Check out Connect Team at www.connectteam.com and on IG at Connect Team App. And then obviously you grew up in a soldering world, but then you're living a press world.
Yep. We still solder a ton.
Because you're
I don't think
commercial.
that's ever going anywhere because there's so much of it in the, in what we deal with. Although, because of what's happening sort of on a governance level and an insurance level, I do think, soldering's going to become an antiquated form just because it will be like no one will insure you to do it. No one will, pay you to do it. And I do think, from a selfish point of view of the manufacturers, they make way more money off those press fittings than
1,000%.
off those solder fittings.
Of
Yeah.
course they do.
So that's if it's driven by money, then press is where it's going, because that's like, you got to sell those expensive tools and jaws and fittings. You know what I mean? A 2-inch 90 is like $65 press, and $18 if I solder it.
I know. But then it's the time, right? So they're factoring in their price point based on the time that they're saving you, but then you have to charge the client accordingly, which you can't because they won't pay for it. So you have to find a middle ground between soldering and press, and then you make a little bit of money. But the manufacturers are the ones that are really benefiting here.
Yep, 100%.
I'm sorry to say, but it's
which is why it's being that's why it's being pushed everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, you can do the conspiracy theory thing, and when something's pushed like crazy everywhere, I'm like, what's the advantage? Is it the advantage to me, the person that's buying it, or is it the advantage to the person I'm buying it from? Clearly, the advantage is to the person I'm buying it from.
When I'm starting to see like loads and loads and loads of Milwaukee packouts filled with ProPress fittings in each one and drawered and all centered, like it's all set up that way. It's just almost like something going on here.
Yeah, no, 100%. And that's what's changed. Like, it's been around for 20, like I have the original press gun.
Oh, wow.
The thing that weighs 85 pounds. The CT 400 from Rigid. It's huge. It's like a bazooka and weighs like 65 pounds. It's huge. And we used to use it on anything 2-inch and above.
Yeah.
In our commercial settings, because we didn't have to pull the hot permits. So we liked it. But it was super hard to get the fittings. Like, if I was going to do that, I'd be like, I need, 3 weeks to order them, to get them into, so I can use them. And now, like you say, it's everywhere. Like, you can buy them at Home Depot now, for Pete's sake.
Can you?
Which doesn't make sense.
That doesn't make any sense.
In the States, you can. Yep.
They got to be like ridiculously expensive there.
I can't imagine what their price point is. But
would you still?
I've seen the videos of them. I guess I haven't seen them in person. So
would you still? Are you guys still preferring gas threading over gas pressing?
We thread most everything. If we're doing a quick swap out, then we'll use the press.
You'll use press. Okay, so it depends. It's job, I guess, scope dependent. Right?
Yeah, it's job dependent.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense 100%. At that point, right?
Yeah. And budget dependent, like you say. a press gas 90 is like whatever the hell that thing
Oh,
is.
stupid money.
$75, and a
Yeah.
fitting is like 75 cents.
Yeah, I know.
Bananas.
Water leak protection, big out west. Do you like it?
They're trying
Dislike
to
it?
make it big. I
Yeah.
think it's stupid.
I all I've heard is like I go back to the on demand. Like I've heard of false readings, and then all of a sudden the system's being shut down, and then you have to take care of that, and then there's like CPU problems, and I'm like, man, what's with all these issues? I don't understand this. Why can't we just make this work the way you guys are
No.
marketing it?
There was a company out of Quebec that I talked to for almost a year. They wanted to sort of make us one of their franchises. I forget the name of it.
Okay.
Aki Sense, I think. AKI Sense. Anyway, and it sort of went by the wayside because they were trying to get into the commercial market. I'm like, yeah, but I can't, as great as that sounds, I can't have the water just randomly shut off because it feeds so many different systems
Yeah.
that if I'm shutting something off, I got to shut things off before I shut the water off. Like you just can't kill the water. So do you make some crazy network of, little digital uh, robots talking to each other? Oh, well, don't shut this off until this is shut off. I'm like, it's by the time that all happens and the expense of all that, it's easier just to have me show up and do it. Like, I
Yeah.
don't think I know that the residential angle is super popular, but again, I think it's, most people when they leave, the snowbirds here, they just shut off their water anyway and drain down their building in case, or drain down their house in case their furnace shuts off. But I do think it's one of those techno technological pieces that's just a bit overkill. It's not really
I'd
necessary.
agree. I totally agree with you. It's kind of like everyone was always paranoid about washers exploding, the rubber lines, and then you'd have a flood.
Yeah,
And I'm like, yeah, I guess so. But if you have a drain underneath the washer, which is now code, then that'll assist it. But
yeah.
you'll still have water there. But I mean, are you going to be paranoid for the point where, what if it's constantly shutting off? Like I'm paying attention to. I've never seen so many brownouts go on in 1 year. I'm like, why is the power always going off every so often? And getting to the point where are you trying to convince people to get standby generators now? Is that what you're trying to get people to do? I don't understand.
Yeah.
Like, there's all kinds of funny things that are going on. I'm not being a conspiracy theorist or anything like that, but it is kind of interesting. I like new products in construction. I'm sure that in your history of construction, your decades of it, that you've seen things evolve and things have gotten better and cooler looking and more battery operated
Yeah.
and making your life a lot easier. But the thing is that it has to be proven. It can't just be a gimmick. It can't just be good marketing at that point, right? It has to actually work and do what it says it's going to work.
That's the problem with lots of that. I think we've sort of reached that saturation point where they, and this isn't throwing shade at Milwaukee or DeWalt or any of those companies. They make fabulous products, but I think they're making stuff just because they can.
Yeah.
Like they have that crazy palm nailer or some weird stapler. I'm like, I can think where I would use that once for 10 minutes. Is it really worth me buying, a $300 tool that I'm going to use for 10 minutes in one super weird, super specific situation? No, I'm just going to, staple it or, turn my hammer sideways and, wreck the head of my hammer and carry on with my life. I don't know. Seems crazy to me. Some of that stuff they come out with. I'm like,
I agree. I think
that,
I think if a tool collects dust that's not construction dust of the day, then it doesn't serve a purpose on the job site.
I agree.
You
I
know what
agree
I
with you.
mean?
They have those. Milwaukee just came out with the battery operated threader. I'm like, what are you guys doing? Why would you have a thread? Like, it's a huge piece of equipment
What's the price
and
tag
it
on that?
runs off of. I don't know. I haven't seen one in real life. I have asked a couple of guys, what does that cost? I don't know. Milwaukee just sent it to me. I'm like, oh, okay.
I almost feel like it
Nobody knows
becomes,
what those things
yeah, I
cost.
almost feels like Price is Right. Like it becomes a game show. You're trying to figure out Plinko or something like that. You're trying to figure out what the price of that product is. And that's what I think
Yeah.
Milwaukee does. So they come up with that. They're probably going to charge like $2,000 for it or something like that, if not
Oh,
more.
well, they have that. You probably saw that Hilti one where they
Yeah.
had that stupid crane over
Yeah.
their head and
Yeah.
everybody.
What's the price tag
I'm
on
like,
that?
I've jackhammered 1,000 things. There is like 2 times in my whole life where I wish I could have,
Yeah.
because my shoulders were tired, that I was coring a hole through a wall with a jackhammer. Usually, I'm coring a hole. It has the whole rig that you mount to the wall. And you just sit there and you turn the dial. Like, what is the purpose of that? It's so it's so narrow that how is it even worth it? I don't even know how, like it's cool. Like everybody and their dog was out there. Watch, I can lift this up with
It's
one
great.
hand, and
Wonderful.
I'm like, congratulations.
Can somebody show me
You'll never
that
use that
tool being used on a real job site with a real tradesperson?
exactly.
That's what I want to look at. I want to see how it's real that it's going to work. And then what's the price tag?
And then I want to see you walk into the job site wearing that. Like, what are you dipping and under and over to get to your work site?
Up and
I'm like,
down
okay,
construction stairs,
up and yeah,
through mud, through snow, all kinds of no. You got to bring it in a case, and you got to wheel the case in, and you got to dismantle it. Then you got to assemble it as if you're an assassin that you're on a rooftop, and now you're putting those together.
exactly right.
And I'm like,
That's
okay, can you
exactly
help
what
me
I
with this
thought.
piece? Can you help me with that piece? Can you put it together? Come on, guys. Like, are we getting way too far? I agree with you. We're getting way too far. Meanwhile, you got the tradesman or woman coming in, and they just do the job, and it gets done. That's it.
Yep.
Without that.
Yep. Do it.
Just get
So
it
I
done,
I
man.
do think they're just inventing things to invent and to get that's part of the world today. Clicks and likes. I mean, you live
Yep.
in that world
Yep.
where you got in order to get some into the algorithm to like you, you got to have some traction. So we'll make this stupid tool
Yeah.
that 50 people will demo for us in the shop, and we'll get like 50 million likes. That's perfect. That was worth it. Okay.
Doesn't
Yes.
anybody from these companies ever realize that there's value to actually demo these new tools on a real working active job site with real tradespeople? Doesn't that come across the table at some point?
The problem is I think that's where it would be exposed. Like you've seen those ones where they have the drill races on who can drill the screw the fastest. I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
why don't you just show a dude that's building a house and or whatever, putting down roofing. Let's say if this is better or worse. Actually, this thing sucks because of XYZ, and I won't use it.
There
But
you
it
go.
looks good.
You can get two houses, Bob. You get two houses being built, one by real tradespeople, one by tradespeople influencers. Let's see those videos. Anybody want to sponsor that
I
event?
would love
I
to
want to
see
see
that
those
video.
videos. I totally would love to see those videos, man. What are you guys up to
That's
today?
right.
Well, we're still setting up lights and we're still
Here's the
putting
influencer
camera.
house.
It didn't meet
I love
inspection.
that.
I would love to see that. I don't know if that's going to happen. Here we go. We're just pissing off more people. It doesn't matter. I do love that, and
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out, Bob, are you the only one with an OnlyFans page and construction worker? Or are there more of you guys?
My OnlyFans page is obviously my website, but I put it up as
I
Baker
get it. I
OnlyFans
totally get it. I know, but it's funny that
I'm
you've
an
got
asshole, but
you've got an OnlyFans page. I know. I get it. Awesome having you, Bob. Honestly, awesome having you. Everybody check them out again at Baker PLBG. And then the website is www.bakerplumbing.ca. Phone number to reach them for any kind of service work or questions, or just get yelled at if you want to get yelled at. You want to get taught
I'll
something.
yell at you, man.
That's it.
Yeah.
403-800-3007. Find him on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, IG. He's got his own podcast, Barn Banter, and also it's Baker Plumbing 3.0. Probably going to be 4.0 by the end of the year, maybe 5.0.
Yep.
We'll keep on seeing it.
I'm willing to go to 12. If I hit 12.0, then I'm done.
You ready for these 10 questions here?
Yes, give them to me.
What everyday sound brings you joy and comfort?
What everyday sound
Brings you joy and comfort.
you know what? This year it's my baby granddaughter's voice. It's fabulous.
What's her name?
Her name is Lily.
Lily. What's your favorite
Awesome.
beverage? What's your
My
favorite?
favorite what?
Sorry, what's your favorite beverage?
That would have to be Coca-Cola, right to say.
What is your
Exactly.
least favorite? Well, actually, you know what? Let me ask you a question about Coke. You're old enough to go through the whole. Remember when they introduced new Coke? They tried that whole fiasco. That did really well, eh? That did really well. What's your least favorite tool?
My least favorite what?
Your least favorite tool.
Oh, my least favorite tool. Probably the threader. I hate that thing. The Rigid 700, the original handheld threader that you had to lay on top of that I still have the thread 2-inch pipe. Yeah.
I don't think you you can't destroy that thing. Like that thing is indestructible.
It was my father's. So it's
Wow.
60 years old, man, and it still goes.
Wow. What
When you
turns you
plug it
on?
in, the lights dim, though. That's the only problem.
It what? Sorry.
The lights dim when you plug it in because it sucks so much power.
You need a generator. Just take a generator off an EV. That's all. What turns you on creatively?
Uh I listen. It's gay to say, but I love the trade. I love working with problems that nobody else can solve.
What word or concept do you find overused these days?
Systemic.
Uh, yeah, I'm with you on that one,
I,
man.
I you agree. Everything is systemic.
What's your favorite curse word?
My favorite what?
Curse word.
It's fuck, of
Okay.
course.
No, it's not always fuck. There's always a different one sometimes for other people, but the go-to one, that's the consensus
Go
here.
to.
The go-to is
That's the
that.
one. It may not be my, if it's not my favorite, it's my most used for sure.
Your most shared, not used. It's shared.
Yeah, my most shared. Exactly.
What's your favorite vehicle in the entire world? Anything in the world?
My favorite vehicle?
Yeah.
Listen, my truck.
Yeah.
I spend my whole life in this truck. I'm not a big car guy. I'm not a big truck guy.
What are you driving there?
This is a 2009 GMC Sierra diesel before they came out with the stupid salt water that you had to add to your
Why
fucking
can't
truck.
GMC bring back Bob Seger and like a rock mentality commercials? You know what I'm saying? Like where you
I
actually
think,
I watched those
yep,
commercials and I was like, I want to buy a truck now. Like it's just like it made sense to me, man.
yeah. I think they've lost their. I think that's part of it. I think lots of those companies have lost their direction because they're trying. Like they've sort of gone that whole. Can I say leftist angle where
Yeah.
they just. You know what I mean?
I totally know what you
It,
mean. I
it's
do
it,
totally would.
it's not. We're not going after a specific person anymore. We're going after everybody. And so to go after everybody, we got to please everybody. Like, maybe that's a bad way to go.
I
Because you're not
challenge
pleasing everybody.
I challenge all you younger trades that don't know what I'm talking about regarding the Like a Rock campaign. Just Google it, go to YouTube, and just type in GMC Like a Rock, and you'll see commercials that make you want to buy that year that truck. Not today's truck. You'll buy that year that truck. I guarantee you
Yeah,
will.
100%. 100%.
What do you miss from your childhood?
The innocence of it.
Yeah,
It was wonderful.
wonderful.
Life is hard and brutal and wicked at times. It never was when you're a little kid. You just enjoyed every moment of it.
Discovery every day.
Yeah.
If you could master a skill outside of your own expertise, what would it be? Well, you got plumbing, you got keeper, and then assassins coming, and then what else?
Assassins on the way. You know what? The people I really sort of bodybuilding would be awesome.
Yeah,
I can
get
do
into
something
it.
like that. Yeah.
Do it.
I'm trying. I have my own gym. I usually do my podcast from my gym with the Baker Barn, but like I said to you at the opening, which you didn't record, I put it on a Monday morning because I'm an idiot. Interview on this Monday morning.
And I'm keeping you. Last question. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at those pearly gates?
Welcome home.
That's all he's got to say. That's it. Well, absolute pleasure, man. Thank you so much for making the time and having the conversation. I really, a lot of respect for, it was Matt, right? That made the suggestion. He reached out to me. He's like, you got to get Bob. You guys would get along. And I was like, yeah, I totally think we would get along. I just looked at a few of the posts and I was like, yeah, we pretty much get along. What is shit in the industry, we agree is shit. What's good in the industry, we agree it's good. And we love the industry, period. As simple as that.
Love it.
That's it.
Love it. Yeah.
Thanks so much. Everybody, again, check him out. Follow his stuff at Baker PLBG and www.bakerplumbing.ca, 403-800-3007. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, IG, and also his podcast, Barn Banter. That's it, man. Thanks so much, Bob. Really appreciate it, man.
I appreciate it, man. Anytime. Good luck.
Thanks, man. Don't go anywhere just yet.
Chatting after.